In this example, we have only two terms. It is a quadratic equation because there's a square, but remember I said that b and or c may equal 0, so sometimes you can even have a single term, but you must have a square. Now, how do we factor this? We'll factor and then use the quadratic formula. Well, the first thing you should check for when you're factoring, always check for greatest common factor. Then after you check for that, you look at the type of factoring based on the size. For two terms, it could be a difference of squares. For three terms, we have our AC. And for four terms, we have grouping. So we always check for GCF, and then we see if we can factor again based on the size of the polynomial. Okay, well we have that set to 0, so that it is standard form. So A is 9. A is always the number in front of the x squared. B is -3. Our x term is always next. We're missing a constant, and so C would be 0. Okay, now let's go to factoring. On this one here, it looks like we have a common factor. So it's not a trinomial. We don't have to AC. We'll need these for the quadratic formula. So what do these two have in common? Well, they both divide by 3, and they both have an x. I factor out a 3x, and that leaves me 3x. If I divide that out, minus, those cancel to 1. That should multiply back to the original problem. And this is completely factored. Okay, so all it was a greatest common factor. So very simple to do the factoring. 3x equals 0. 3x minus 1 equals 0. One of my answers is 0, and the other one, add 1 divided by 3, is 1/3. Okay? Now, to use the quadratic formula, you do need a number for A, B, C, so any missing term or terms gets a 0. Let's write it down again. Right now, we're not worried about memorizing this, but if you write it down every time you use it, you will get it memorized, and that will help you later on. So, opposite of B. So I have a negative, and then I have B. Well, those two negatives are going to make a positive. So it's always going to opposite what you have. Here's where I said be careful with parentheses, because it's -3 squared minus 4 times A times C, and all of that is over 2 times A. Well, we're getting the opposite of B, or the negative of -3. We get +3 plus or minus. -3 squared is +9, minus, that would be 0, would just be 9, all over 18. That's a perfect square. Square root of 9 is 3, over 18. 3 plus 3 is 6 over 18. 3 minus 3, so that's one possible. 3 minus 3 is 0 over 18. Put a comma between. Let's simplify those. That gives me 1/3. Canceling out the 3's, or 0. So you can probably see factoring really is quicker in most cases. Why would we even need an alternative? Well, sometimes there's problems that cannot be broken down into factors, and the only way to get the answers is to use the formula.